Magda, and Philip.
Likewise.
Briefly introduce yourself, mentioning the major you graduated with, maybe the college as well, but what you're doing today and what you graduated from. That'd be great. Dominika, can you start?
Sure. So my name is Dominika. I've graduated from English philology at the University of Wrocław. I've made my bachelor there, and then I decided to do my master's in linguistics at the Jagiellonian University. And yes, now I work as a head of hub at MemoQ. So this means that I lead a cross-functional sales team dedicated to the region of CE, so Central and Eastern Europe and Nordic countries.
Thank you. Magda, can you hear us? We don't see your image anymore, but if you can hear us and speak, then please take the floor. Magda? Probably not. Philip, can you take over?
Yes, of course. Hi, my name is Philip Mierzwa. My alma mater is the University of Leipzig in Germany, so I was graduating there. I did my bachelor's degree in West Slavic studies and Russian studies, and later my master's degree in Slavic studies in general. My main languages were Polish, Russian, Ukrainian, and Kashubian. I was teaching there also Polish. I'm bilingual, Polish-German. I was teaching there Polish. I was translating also a bit later. And currently I'm working at Huawei as a language consultant. That means I am working within the voice assistant project and for the German language to make Celia speak German.
Thank you, Philip.
I'm glad to hear that.
Technical difficulties, but glad you're back. Can you introduce yourself and mention your major?
Sure. Hi, my name is Magda Kasińska. I work as a localization project manager at Venga Global. I graduated from English philology, and I specialized both in teaching English as a foreign language and in translations of literature. I had started my professional career as an English teacher. I worked mostly with kindergarten students, but shortly after that, I started my first full-time job in the industry as a junior project manager in a translation agency in Kraków, Poland. I stayed at the company for a few years and I moved to different positions. All were connected with project management and relationship and key account management, where I was responsible for relationships with key accounts, key clients of the company. After some time, I decided to move to another city in Poland, which is smaller, and I realized that there are no LSPs there. So I decided to start looking for a remote job in the industry, and that's how I landed in Venga Global. And I started working remotely even before the COVID era. And at the moment, I work as a localization project manager, and I manage mostly localization projects connected with localization of HR software.
Nice. Thank you very much, everyone. Myself, I'm also a language graduate. I graduated from Poznań University, general linguistics, and but here I am, also being a key account, or as we prefer to say it nowadays, customer success. I used to be a product owner for XTRF for a couple years, so we've walked our paths to, from language to technology to translation industry. Could you tell me and all who are listening to us how important do you think these studies that we took, how important it is in our careers today? Would it be the same without these studies?
Who wants to start? I think it's really important because I remember when I was studying, people were like, and what you want to do later and why, and later, so what? And at first I was a bit scared about that, but studying this and talking also to people what kind of opportunities you have, I realized that linguists are really important because the technology now is really fusionating with languages, and machines still can't do this what our brains can do. And we at this point are still the better machines to make the new machines work. So really having also some kind of theory of languages helped a lot to understand what we are doing and to help people also who are creating the technology to make it work with the languages. So I was really surprised that they really need us. They really need us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Philip. I think it's very important. And sometimes I think in the industry, unfortunately, we tend to forget that the translator's work is the core of our business. So having this linguistic background and knowledge really helps me as a project manager to support linguists in their everyday work, because I, as a project manager, need to support and manage teams of linguists. But also I work on the vendor side, and I think it's pretty essential for us to have this linguistic knowledge to be able to support our customers better and advise them on many different linguistic matters.
It's interesting what both of you said. And I will be in a bit of opposition to that. Of course, I'm a huge language nerd, and I've always been, and I haven't imagined taking up any other studies than linguistic studies. Well, almost. And I do believe that it depends on the role that you'd like to pursue. So I know many amazing salespeople, for example, in our industry that are not linguists, but of course they needed to obtain certain amount of knowledge. They really need to dive into the localization industry with all its special cases. But I would say that no, it's not crucial, but it does help. It does help to find your ways more easily and definitely change the career paths. Something that I failed to say before. I haven't started to work immediately in sales. I've also been a teacher, like both Philip and Magda. I've been a translator. I've been an interpreter. So I really had my fair share of trying out different career paths, and I wouldn't be able to do so if I wasn't a linguist. But still, I feel you don't have to be a linguist to be part of the localization industry, because there's plenty of opportunities for non-linguists as well.
Interesting. So let's reverse the question maybe a little. Let's talk about the technical competencies. First of all, were you in touch with language-oriented technology, like CAT tools or any other, when you were at a university, or how important these skills are in a language-centered job, perhaps? What do you say to that?
So maybe I'll start. During my philology studies, although I chose specialization in translation, I had no direct contact with CAT tools, so computer-aided translation tools. And even the internships I took were really pen and paper type of internships. So I started to investigate this topic on my own. But later on, during my linguistic studies with also with specialization in translation and interpreting, I did have a class on computer-aided translation tools, and that's actually how I learned about both XTRF and MemoQ, and this somehow paved my way forward. So it does help to know the tools, definitely. But the learning curve is not that steep, so you can always brush up your knowledge. You can always learn about the new tools. So it does help.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Dominika, but I think it is also important to mention that you cannot learn CAD tools, or you cannot learn the software, and because I think the industry is changing so fast that it is an ongoing process. So even though I hadn't had much experience with CAD tools when I started, because I just took one very basic training during my internship that I did during my university years, I was able to learn, and I had to learn during the first months and years of my professional career, and it is still ongoing, and I don't have a month when I don't learn about something new, which is exciting too.
I was not studying like translatology, but I had some courses there, and I remember that we were speaking about it, and honestly I didn't know that there is something like this, and now I was starting to get in touch with it. At this moment I'm not really working with it, but we are discussing it and see that it's helping a lot. So it's the thing that I would like to learn. For now, I just had, like, say, basic technical knowledge.
All right. So not much about technology during the studies, but later on it comes into question. When you look at where you are today and compare it to where you were, finishing your university, what career paths do you see for language graduates today? Should they be afraid? Were you afraid? And what are the hopes? And what should our listeners today think of their careers in, say, language or related to language?
Maybe I would start. I was afraid a lot. I'm saying this honestly, but when I started to look for a job, I was really surprised that there are a lot of possibilities. I didn't know that there's such a possibility to work as a Slavist student later at Huawei. So for me, it's really like a shock. I was really surprised. I was also working for LG, and they were looking only for linguists for some kind of teams because of the communication skills, because of our language skills and things like this. So I can just tell all the people out there, don't be afraid, you will definitely find something. Some people prefer being, for example, in the sales industry, they're looking for people too. It's really, what do you prefer? I can't say it's only one thing or two, it's like 100 things. It helps to know while you're studying that there are these possibilities. I didn't know that, so I was surprised. But now I'm thinking, like, if I would know before, it would be perfect.
Yeah, I agree. There are hundreds of possibilities in the industry, and when you're a linguist, really the world is your oyster. And I remember being very afraid and very desperate, I would say. Although I had quite a lot of experience already translating and teaching English, I was really afraid to make that step and, for example, set up my own translation business. I wasn't sure I will handle that. And there was another factor that was very important to me, so the people's factor. And I'm rather a people's person, so I was afraid sitting at home alone and translating. So little did I know that several years after I will end up working from home again. But I remember I panicked. And for a moment, I drifted away from the localization industry. I started working in business development for one of an IT companies in Krakow. But I really missed it. And I always looked for some opportunities in the industry. And then XTRF showed up. And I thought, wow, this is just a perfect combination because it's still IT. So I would get to work in a very dynamic environment. I would work close to people making software, which also Magda mentioned is very intriguing and it's fascinating because you learn so much and it changes so quickly. And I got to be in the localization industry. So for me, this turned out to be a perfect combination. And on top of that, sales. I really love working in sales. So I couldn't imagine having it any better.
Yeah, I think connected to that, I think it's important to mention that as long as you have this linguistic background, you should focus more on your soft skills and preferences before joining the industry, because there are plenty of opportunities. I work as a project manager, but you can, so it means that I need to have good time management skills, but also interpersonal skills and so on. If you want to become a translator, you need to focus on the quality of your work and not necessarily on other skills. But you can also work as a localization engineer if you like technology, as a business development manager, just as Dominika, and so on. I think, as Philip said, possibilities are countless.
Is there an ideal role for a beginner that leaves the college and looks for a job for themselves? What would be the most needed or important skills? You mentioned soft skills, but which ones would that be in the localization or wherever you're dealing with languages where you are now?
I think during my university years, I joined a translation agency as a junior project manager. So from my experience, I can say that it's a very good role to start with, because as a project manager, you need to be in contact with all the departments of your company. You manage work of many different people, also many different freelancers. So I think it is a good opportunity to learn about everyday work of many different people working on many different roles. So if you consider joining a translation agency or LSP, I think that is something that you might want to look at.
I can say when I started to work really after graduating, I was doing some language things voluntarily, like translating, writing something, articles, for example. Sometimes I got money for it, sometimes I didn't. I remember that I started to work in a company, technology, IT, because I was thinking like, okay, there must be something with languages, so I will just try. And I remember that I had to be really open and work on my communication skills, because that's what they are really waiting for when you're coming as a language student. They think that you can like say everything, do everything, and that was interesting to see that you really have to be open to people working in a team and things like this. So I would say in general, this is important, to be open.
Openness and flexibility, perhaps. Dominika?
Yeah, I agree that approaching job search with openness and open-mindedness is crucial, and eagerness to learn, for sure. This is, as we already mentioned so many times, this is such a complex industry. You can take on so many jobs, you can take on so many angles, and for each different sector, wherever you land on the spectrum, you'll be needing a bit different set of knowledge, but you will definitely need still the same set of soft skills. So I would say that, you know, you can be whatever you want in the industry as far as you stay open-minded and you really want to learn.
Very well, very well. Now we're approaching the end of our time, but you, Philip, mentioned that you worked voluntarily for a paper, if I remember correctly. But everybody else, ladies, would you remember a time when you considered working for free, not even, you know, for charity, but, you know, like real job, just not receive payment? Would you that desperate? Would you be that desperate at that time? How, you know, the tension is there at times. I'm not sure. We have listeners from all over the world, so you know each country may be a bit specific. But what do you remember from this first day of you know getting paid or desiring to get paid?
Magda, would you like?
Well, yeah, sure. I remember that during my university years, I once took an internship as a translation intern, and it wasn't a paid internship. And I was very happy that I got the internship because I was desperate to get some experience because it was required by many different companies that I wanted to apply to. And now when I'm looking back at the work that I did during the few weeks at the time, I really contributed to the company's operations. I translated many pages, and that is not something that shouldn't be paid. So, well, I understand the position of students who want to get any experience because it's often required, but I do not think it is fair to offer unpaid jobs and unpaid internships to language graduates who possess many skills already.
Exactly, because starting a job or starting an internship, you already come with some knowledge. You lack experience, but you do have knowledge and you have skills. So this is something that should be appreciated. So I would advise to try to persuade the employer to pay you whatever they can, at least. But you are providing valuable services, so it would be a shame not to get paid for that. But also, on the other hand, I'm a huge believer in voluntary work. So wherever you believe in something, or you'd like to support any organization, or you'd like to take part in an interesting festival, for example, I did that a lot, and you can pay in your work for taking part in that. That's another whole world of opportunities. So I would say voluntary work, yes. Working for free, maybe not. Try to avoid that because you are already valuable employees. So why not get paid?
Okay, Philip, I take your voluntary position as an answer. I would still like to ask the last question of the session. That is, you know, we all share different experiences, and you probably have some within the freelance sector and the full-time sector or office work sector or whatever. Is it just a matter of personal experience, or do you see concrete advantages and disadvantages of the approach of how you work, how you work? But does it matter in COVID time?
I think it's a matter of personal preference, really. Dominika already said something like this. It's really, I was thinking about working full-time and doing the other thing together. And I did this for some time. And I in the end, said to myself, no, I would do I would be either a freelancer or like a full-time job, let's say in a company or something like this. I really tried it together. It was nice. It was a good experience, but I can say for myself, it's easier to split. And now I am glad that I can work in a company and work with translation and language together. So this is also possible. But I think it's hard to say this is better or this is better, because I know people who are freelancer and they are happy and they're doing it. And I know people who said like, sorry, I can't do this.
I agree. I think it's a matter of personal preference, but also it depends on where you are in your life, I would say. So right after I graduated from the university, I didn't feel like staying at home and being a full-time freelance translator. And I'm glad that I chose the corporate path, gaining experience, learning from so many people, from so many new situations. But being a freelance translator is always somewhere there. So I believe that at some point in my life, maybe I'll get back to that. So it's nice to have, backup plan. But I don't see, but I also have many friends who stayed working at home as freelance translators, and they are very happy. So it really depends on what you want from life and professional life.
Yeah, I think at the moment we can all feel how how a freelance translators day looks like. Because most of us in the industry work remotely, but at the same time, I would not switch my full-time job to a freelance one, mostly because of, I think, as both of you already mentioned, it's a matter of personal preference and probably your priorities. I really value my fixed working hours, and I really think that having time for yourself is very important for your mental health. And at the same time, I can imagine that if I worked as a freelancer, time management would not be my strong strong side. So yeah.
I would like to repeat this, what Dominika said, like it depends a bit on where are you in your life. I graduated 3 years ago, and now I can say, okay, now I really have the idea what I would like to do. And I didn't think it will last like 3 years, but I'm happy with it. I had my experience, but it's really after graduating, I was like, oh my God, I need to go to a company because how will I survive? And other people did the freelance thing and no problem. So it's really how you feel. And I can say after 3 years, I did it right. I'm happy, and maybe I will do one day this freelance thing. Why not? Maybe I will again write articles and things like this. Why not? I'm open for it. Let's see.
Openness and open-mindedness. Yes.
Yes.
Magda, Domi, Philip, thank you very much for your thoughts, sharing your experience. Carola, Aga, thank you for letting us speak and have this panel.